metal maniacs, thrashers, punks, death metal delinquents, grindcore freaks, old school rockers, new school hardcore kids, and everyone else in between. This is the Solid Steel Syndicate Podcast, baby.
Top of the morning to you, everyone. Welcome to the Solid Steel Syndicate Podcast. I'm your host, Irish J. This is actually the first podcast of the Solid Steel Syndicate Podcast. I've done some other podcasting in the past. I've done some amazing things, gotten to talk to some great people. I've done somewhat legendary, The Perfect Podcast, Metalheads Forever, The Irish J Show. So I took a break and now I'm ready to get back to it. I had some really killer, amazing, fun times in the past. I've gotten to talk to some amazing, just icons of the metal scene and hardcore and thrash and punk. I've talked to Joey Belladonna from Anthrax. Obviously, I've talked to Rob from Exodus. I've got to interview Max Cavalera. Talked to Bobby from Biohazard. I even interviewed Doyle and Michael Graves from the Misfits. So it's been a really fun thing to do and something that I'm looking to get back into. This is like I said, my first podcast. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about Megadeth's new song, We'll Be Back. I'm not a huge fan of that title. It reminds me of like an 80s commercial break, but the song is killer. I love the song. We're definitely going to talk about that. A little bit more about who I am first. I've been a metalhead since I was a little kid. I remember being probably like 7 or 8 years old and hanging out with some kids that were a little older than me. And they got me into bands like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, the Scorpions. And, so that got me into it. And I always liked like stuff that was on the radio that had more of like a rock edge to it. I always was into like Van Halen. And then a little while later, a friend of mine, Tim, God rest his soul, he was like, well, if you like metal, you should check this out. And he gave me this tape and it was Metallica's Master of Puppets. And that blew me away because I knew there was another level to this whole thing. I knew that as much as I liked Iron Maiden, as much as I liked the Scorpions and Judas Priest and AC/DC bands like that, I knew there was something out there that was heavier, harder, faster. And when I discovered Metallica, I was like, oh yeah, this is it. And a little while after that, our school, I was probably in, I want to say 7th or 8th grade, our school had a talent show, and there was a band called Rigor Mortis, not the Rigor Mortis. That was a pretty popular band name during that time frame. This was early to mid 80s. And they did this song, and I asked this girl who I went to school with, her dad owned a guitar shop, and her and I would talk about music. We would always talk about metal. And so I knew she knew the scene pretty well. And I asked her what that song was, and she said, oh, that's Metallica. That's their song, Seek and Destroy. And I was like, oh, wow. And she was like, yeah, that's from Kill 'Em All. And I was like, wait, Metallica has a new album out? Because I thought Master of Puppets was their first album. That was my first exposure to them. And I was a young kid. And back then we didn't have the internet. So you had to learn about things through magazines and things like that. So I went out, I discovered Ride the Lightning. I was so blown away by Ride the Lightning. I discovered Kill 'Em All. And I knew that this was my scene. Like, this is the music that I've been looking for. This is where I belonged. And like I said, there was no internet, so it was word of mouth. So the metal community was pretty cool, pretty tight knit, and it wasn't cool back then. A lot of times people would, make fun of you behind your back, and I'd hear them saying, people usually didn't make fun of me, not because I'm super cool, but I got along with everybody. But I heard them talking about other people who wore like the metal shirts like I did. So it wasn't cool back then. It wasn't a cool thing to be metal. It wasn't, people kind of looked down on it. But so the community was really tight knit back then. So it was a lot of word of mouth. And then someone told me that, hey, Metallica, they had this guitar player that quit and he started his own band. And then there used to be this thing on TV called Headbangers Ball. And so when I would come home from school, I make myself a sandwich. I'd sit down and watch Headbangers Ball. And most of the videos were garbage, but every now and then they play a banger. And I actually did discover some new bands that were new at the time back then. And I remember seeing the video for Peace Sells, and I immediately went out and I got that tape. I listened to that tape so much that the words came off it. You couldn't even read what the songs were because I was just so in love with it. And then I went back into their catalog, discovered Killing Is My Business. Excuse me. And then just progressed from there after Peace Sells, then was So Far So Good, So What. and I loved that album. And then came Rust in Peace, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. And I continued with Megadeth's catalog from that point on: Countdown to Extinction, Euthanasia, Cryptic Writings. And then, for a little while, I kind of fell off a little bit. But this new song that we're going to talk about today, We'll Be Back, is a killer song. And we're going to talk more about it. But so that's my story. Like I said, I discovered metal a long time ago and have been into it ever since. It's a scene I love. I've met some amazing people. I've gotten to talk to some really cool people, and the people that I've talked to that are really, really big in the scene, that are really, really well known. It's like they're really humble, and everyone that I've encountered has been really cool. So I'm looking forward to doing this again. Like I said, we'll talk to new up and coming bands. That's the thing that I'm really big on. I've been in a lot of bands in my past as well. So helping out new bands, helping them get recognized, and just helping promote other bands that I love. Not that they need help with promoting, especially some of the people that I talk to. They're pretty well known throughout the world. But I think this is going to be fun. It's going to be an opportunity for me to get back into something that I love and dig into. So the scene now is just incredible. It encompasses so much, and there's so many different styles that have been combined, and so many there's just so many bands, and now it's totally international. I mean, there's not just like, oh, there's a band in Israel right now that's a metal band. It's like, no, there's like a whole bunch of bands in Israel that they have their own scene. Every country has their own scene, and it's you can't keep up with it anymore because there's so many metal bands out there, which is amazing. Because when I was younger, it was kind of hard to find some of these bands. You buy a couple tapes or a couple records, and you were all caught up because there was nothing else out there. So that's another reason why I enjoy talking about the pioneers and of the metal and thrash scene, because they're the ones that brought it. They're the ones that created it and cultivated it, and have brought us to where we are today, which is pretty amazing. It's a big scene, and all are welcome, and it's something that you can meet some really cool people, and a lot of my friends are metalheads, and that's how I got to know them, because of music. And that's something that can bring us all together. I talk to people online all the time that we don't speak the same language, but we know what each other's talking about when we'll send each other like, hey, check this band out. And the international language, I know it's a cliche, but is love and music. So music is something that is very near and dear to my heart, and I think this is going to be a really fun and exciting thing for me and for us. I'm very I like to get feedback from the people who are watching and who are checking it out. So don't be afraid to leave a comment. Don't be afraid to hit me up on social media, Irish J Irons. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So let's do this. Let's talk about We'll Be Back from Megadeth's new album, which isn't out yet, comes out September 2nd. But I think that album is going to be killer. But hearing this new song, you always hear bands, especially like the old school thrash bands, you always hear them saying, oh, well, or people saying, not necessarily them, people saying, well, they're going back to their roots. I can't tell you how many times some of these Megadeth albums, people said, oh, they're going back to Peace Sells, or they're going back to Rust in Peace. This new album is going to sound exactly like that. And then you hear it and it's not quite there. Or Metallica, oh, they're going back to this new Metallica album is going to sound just like Master of Puppets, or it's going to sound like Kill 'Em All. And then it just doesn't. So I think that production values have changed. And that's one thing that, you're on either side of the fence. Either you like the new production a lot of these bands are coming out with, or you kind of like me, I kind of hold on to the old school a little bit. I think metal, particularly thrash, can be too polished. And I like the old school production values. This song I would say is very well produced, obviously. But I think back to some old Megadeth tracks, and actually I think maybe Dave may have been influenced by some of his earlier stuff. The beginning of this song feels a little to me, maybe not exact, but the guitar tone and what's going on the guitar there feels a little bit like 502, that beginning, which I love. So I feel like he might have pulled a little bit from So Far, So Good, So What, and going back to that. And if you listen to the verses carefully, and then you go listen to a song off P-Cells called Black Friday, you'll see there's some similarities there as well. And maybe he's hearkening back to it a little bit, or maybe just kind of giving a wink and a nod to it. But it comes off very well in this song. This song has it all. This song rocks. It's technical, but it's not. Sometimes technical guitar is not super fun to listen to if you're not a guitar player, or if it's just a little bit too technical, and then you lose the momentum of the song, or you lose the groove. This has it all. It doesn't lose anything. There's the parts are. It's just a really, really solid, well-written guitar song, not just guitar song, but a really, really solid composed song by Dave. And like I said, there's some similarities to some of their old songs, which kind of maybe will be, kind of a homage to some of their old stuff, which I know bands hear a lot, like, oh, we wish you'd go back to that. And then they do. And then it's like, oh, their albums sound the same. So it's tough to find that balance for a lot of bands. But this song has the breakdown in the song, and the changes and the tempo changes. The solos are killer. They're not overwhelming. They don't take away from the song like some other bands that I love, who shall remain nameless, but you probably know who I'm talking about. When their solos come on, it's awful. A friend of mine has a band, and he wrote a song about one of the particular band's solos called Murder to My Ears, because it just stops the song dead. That doesn't happen in this with any of the solos. They fit right in. They keep the song moving along. The song has the speed. It's got the groove. It's got the breakdowns. It's a perfect song. It's not Holy Wars, which is my favorite Megadeth song, but it's definitely up there, and it really it gives me hope for this new Megadeth album. It's definitely something I'll be picking up, and the other song is excellent as well. If you want to check that out, it's called Night Stalkers. Really good song, also. But so back to We'll Be Back. The only thing, it seems like in the later albums, Dave he does this thing where he like whispers the choruses, and I don't like that. I know there's some people that aren't fans of Dave's vocals. I've always loved his vocals. He has some punk rock sensibilities there. He has kind of that sneer and that like high pitch, almost like a punk rock voice. And I know that he's very influenced by a lot of punk rock, especially if you consider some of the songs that they've covered. But the whisper choruses, I mean, you think of a chorus like Take No Prisoners, take no prisoner. He hits that note. There's a note, take no prisoner. I can't do it because I'm not Dave Mustaine, but he hits that note, P-Cells. But he's like singing it, or even Symphony of Destruction. It's a little slower. It's a little tougher. Symphony of Destruction. It's solid. Killing is my business. He screams that. Killing is my business. Like, I love that. But some of the newer choruses, even this chorus, like, it's a tough song. It's got the speed, it's got the power, it's got the aggression, it's about war. But then the chorus is, we'll be back, and it's whispered. And I don't know for sure if there's auto-tune involved, but I feel like there might be a little bit of auto-tune involved. And Dave doesn't need that. Dave can still hit those high notes. And I know he's just trying to do something different. And there's probably people that love it. The whisper choruses, hopefully you know what I'm talking about. When you compare it to some of the older stuff, I'm not a fan. I think it makes the song sound a little weaker than it could, whereas if he would come in and just nail those choruses and just belt them out or scream them, or even like a little bit of a growl or a grunt, which we know he does very, very well, and he can still do, and he can still pull those things off. So the album is going to be amazing, I feel, and I'm really, really excited for it. Dave Mustaine and Kiko are just what a combination on guitar. If you're a guitar player or if you're a musician, I have a feeling that this album is going to be for you. If you're a fan and you just like listening to them to go work out, or to go see them live and go see them experience them live, then I have a feeling that this album is going to be something that everyone's going to love. I don't foresee any negative things about the album. Again, I've only heard 2 songs, but those 2 songs, like I said, give me a lot of hope and a lot of promise for this new album. Again, it's The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead. It's coming out September 2nd. And what else did I want to say? There was one other thing I wanted to say about the song. Well, I can't remember. So, so that's it. That's my breakdown of this song. We'll Be Back, Megadeth, Dave Mustaine, Kiko. I know what I want to say. Dirk on drums. A lot of times the more technical drummers that play with some of these more technical bands, I feel like they kind of lose the groove and they'll have a tendency of trampling on or playing right over some breakdowns. And there's some missed opportunities a lot of times. With both of the new songs that I've heard, I don't see that. And I think Dirk does a great job. And again, Kiko and Dave, just what a combination of guitar wizardry. And I think it's going to provide even more Megadeth music for us all to enjoy for time to come. And I was a little worried for a while. I kind of felt like maybe Megadeth was losing some steam. And I kind of feel like maybe Dave might have even felt that a little bit too. Obviously, with as many albums as they put out, I think it's been 15 albums. You might feel like, okay, maybe I've written everything I can write, or maybe there's nowhere left for me to go. And maybe Dave was feeling that a little bit. If he was, I hope he wasn't. But if he was, I hope with this new album, I have a feeling that he's going to be feeling confident as ever. And we know there's never a lack of confidence with Dave Mustaine, especially with the lineup he's got behind him now. So yeah, I'm excited for this album. I can't wait to check it out. Hope you guys do the same. Leave your comments. If you agree, if you disagree, let me know. And yeah, so that's it for me. Again, I'm Irish J. This is Solid Steel Syndicate Podcast. You can join the syndicate. I'll give you some more details on that in the upcoming weeks. Thanks for watching.